All right, so sticking with Netflix again, let's talk about two series, right? The first is a mini series, and one is one that should that actually really should deserve a second season. And given the overwhelming success it's been having thus far, yeah, it kind of needs a second season, right? So we'll kick things off with Midnight Mass.
Sure.
Ricardo, did you see Midnight Mass?
Yes, I did.
All right. If you don't mind, you just want to tell us what the premise is.
Yeah, so Riley Flint, so the story starts, he goes to prison, right? I forget why exactly he make a jail, but
All right. Well, to answer that question, it was a result of a alcohol-induced car crash.
right.
Death of the
Drug driver.
girlfriend of his, not like
Right.
his actual girlfriend, but just like a friend of his.
Right. Right. So you go to time pass. We go to this island. I forget where this island's off of. It's off of where
Oh,
Ireland.
the name of it is Crockett Island, right?
Right, but where is it?
Crockett.
Where is it exactly?
Is it? I don't think it's actually stated, you know.
Okay.
They just say it's just this random like fishing village.
I just
That's all they
assume
say.
I just assume it's New England because this is very Stephen King.
Stephen King inspired, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a lot of it really does feel very Stephen King
Right.
influencer. It does.
Right, so the town is pretty religious-ish, right? Kind of Catholic-y town, and then some strange happenings like a lot of dead cats for some reason, and dead animals, and a lot of strange shit that going down, and then they have to kind of solve the problem. But they realize, is it that the people who they think fighting against the evil is part of the evil itself? We'll find out. And yeah, that's pretty much what's going on there. It starts off with that. And
Yeah. Well, for one thing, sorry to cut you there. I love how you keep it vague because
Yeah.
I would say for those who haven't seen this, it's best to go in as blind as possible. I saw the trailer, and thankfully, the trailer doesn't give off too much of it. It gives you basically the religious aspect of the show,
Right.
and there's something dark and ominous going on around that, but there's other things that aren't brought up in the trailer, thankfully. So
Yeah.
you could watch it and go jump into this safely, or you could just go in blind and just watch it for what it is. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So that's where it starts with it. There's the first couple episodes where it's just setting up this thing, but they had to talk about religion a lot. It's a very Catholic show, what it's trying to do with respect to ideas about faith and what kind of faith you should have and how it goes forward with that. And it builds in all these other extra issues involving, well, it have a guy the sheriff is a Muslim, but that in the context of that kind of weird, but they bring it up, but not really. And so on and so forth. And so we could just start with that, how I felt about it. So I realized I now understand why it is I don't like horror. Because it had so many weird get the fuck off this island now. What the hell? Like it's
Okay, I know. It's typical horror thing.
It's
You
typical
see
horror.
weird shit and you're like, well, we should leave it, but we need to find out more about what's going on,
Right.
And
And so
then
on-
you just get deeper into the shit.
And only when watermelon flower, then they go like, all right, we had to do something and kind of call for help, kind of thing. And it's not like it's dumbness, because it had to drive the plot, so they'll come up with reasons. But oh boy, it is annoying, man. I didn't hate this. I thought it was great actually. For what it is, really well made. But still, typical horror trappings that why it is I'm not into horror and so on and so forth. So that's about it. I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I wish they. Is Flanagan, so he does a lot of good stuff with that material, and he handles it reasonably well. So that's about it. But yeah, I dug it for what it is. It's great.
All right, that was short,
Right.
You know what I mean? But I would say though, this. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. Yes, this is a very, very, very well made show, and I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are going to put this up, as amongst one of the best TV shows of this year, right? I would just say right off the bat, while I don't have it up there as a top 5 or top 10 as yet, I do agree. Yeah, this is well deserving of that accolade, of those accolades, sorry, right? One thing, so just speaking as someone who saw this a few days ago, I actually wrote some bullet points in it, right? So one thing I dug about this show here is that it doesn't tell you exactly what horror subgenre it belongs to,
No.
but I would say given its overarching theme on religion, it's kind of obvious, right? But
Right.
I love how it was brought up and how it was incorporated into this world, right? And well, for me, speaking of religion, I actually found, because there's a lot of conversations surrounding religion in this series, right? I found them very engaging, right?
Yeah.
There might be anything new, especially to those who into theology and stuff like that, but still, I was just engaged with what they were saying, right? And I know some of these conversations will rub people off the wrong way, especially with how characters view Christianity, right?
Right.
But as someone who identifies as a Christian, and I know some people will kind of watch this show and be like, see, that's why I don't trust church people, eh? That's why I don't go to church, eh? And that's why the church is lying and all that
Right.
kind of stuff, you know. But for me, how I see it is that it's not about the hypocrisy and lies centered on the church. It's really how people can take the word of God and twist it to their own needs, right?
Right.
And for me, that makes for some of the best and the most engaging and most gripping horror, in my opinion.
Right.
I love when, you know, shows touch on that because it's true. It's really true, right? And just especially how the antagonists in this show do that, right? I thought that the acting across the board was superb, though. But really, the two people who stole it for me were Samantha Sloyan, who
Right.
plays Bev Keane, and Hamish Linklater.
Right.
Or Linklater, sorry. To me, he is the best character, best performance. He gives the best performance in this whole show, right? He plays Father Paul Hill, right?
Yeah.
So Bev Keane, though, she is that type of person that you'll watch and you'll just love to hate because she's just such a cold-blooded bitch.
Yeah, she's a Karen.
But it's how it's how fanatical she is.
No, she's a
faith.
Karen. She's a church Karen.
Yes, exactly. Right, and as you say, Karen, though, she like real callous, though, to
Yeah.
like non-Christians. There's like this really uncomfortable moment, though, but you saw it coming, where she goes after the sheriff. It's like, oh, I mean, you're a terrorist and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But I felt my
because
problem with that is that you would have think something like that would have come up before. That,
Okay, I understand, but it comes
Yeah.
up, slight spoiler, in the final episode,
Right.
But yeah, they could have brought that up somewhere earlier in the show. I
Yeah,
understand.
again, that's the problem with the typical horror world building. It's like, oh, you're now talking about that? Or you're now talking about that? Okay. Like, it was kind of
Because
weird.
this guy was in this community for years.
Exactly,
Chris,
that's what I'm trying to say
don't
now.
think because shit hits the fan, all of a sudden you're going to take shots at him. That's what you say.
That was,
Yeah,
exactly. I think you'd be more comfortable. Because if he was like a new sheriff, all right, he's a new sheriff. Okay.
Right.
Well, things
yeah.
like that now. Whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Paul Hill, however, the character Paul Hill is different though because for me, just seeing how his belief, how his faith is challenged though, is tragic and
Right.
fascinating and frightening at the same time, man. I just love seeing how his character just grows throughout this series, right? He comes off really charismatic, like, yeah,
Right.
you know what I mean, coming through, gonna, handle, Sunday Mass, you know what I mean? The original guy isn't here, and that makes for a great mystery. But I'm here to kind of help things out, man. I'm
Right.
cool, you can talk to me. And,
Yeah.
there's nice
Yeah,
moments
they
where
do that
he
with
has
the-
his little AA meetings and stuff, though.
Right, yeah.
But it's like the more he talks to these characters, especially to the one of the lead characters, that would be Riley, you see his countenance and character changes. So
Yeah.
he's a lot more aggressive. He's a lot more, hot-headed at times like
Yeah.
that now. And even like the way how he talks, even the way how he preaches now, it changes a lot. And then, well, his character itself changes too as well, right? So I love that, right? And he's given a lot of dialogue though in this show. But
Yeah,
I feel like
it's his
even when
show.
he speaks, is this a kind of chilling aspect about like when he talks. Even when he's preaching, there's something kind of chilling about it too. Because he's like wholeheartedly telling you, oh, you know what I mean? We're an army, we're the army of God and all that kind of stuff now. And like how he goes into it though, it's like, dude, like you're really sure you understand what he's saying though? But given the nature of who he is, you could kind of buy into, people will go into this, hear his sermon and come out like, you know what I mean? It works like that, right? There's a sort of a bait and switch with the lead character. Like at first I think it's the character of Riley Flynn, who's played by Zach Guilford, but it's actually Erin Green, who's played by Mike Flanagan's wife, Kate Siegel, right?
Right.
I thought that was like really interesting. Like, oh shit, like she's the star. Okay, because you think it all the time as Riley, right? And there's a particular reason why that's the case, but I won't spoil that, right? And to me, both of them are at the heart of the show. They bring up a lot of questions when it comes to like God, life, the state of the world, and the hereafter, right?
Right.
Some of the conclusions you wouldn't really agree with, but I like that the show is smart enough to say, no, this is their views, it's all for their experiences, so it's not for you to copy and paste them into your life and say, this is what I believe now, you know what I mean? So I love that about the show. It's not telling you or preaching to you to tell you, this is how you must see God, and this is how you must see life, and the hereafter. it's kind of telling you to come up to with your own conclusion, right? So there's a great moment involving the two of them talking about how they see death and how they see the hereafter. I'll confess, it does run for a tad bit too long, but I do like the conclusions that they both come into. You could agree or disagree, but I love that the show just kind of leaves it open, right? I thought that the slow burn nature of the show will be a turn off for some viewers,
Right.
especially
No,
those
I
expecting
notice.
to be
I
scared short.
notice. I know these type of people who like the show, and I know there's a bunch of Catholics or ex-Catholics or something like that. Cause like my cousin and them be like, oh, never I like this boy. Yeah, so that's about it, and I get it. Like you get all the because they do the Catholic aesthetics really well, and
Yeah.
the slow mass and the tongue and how Catholics think. They can get all of that. You get all of that in this, and I thought that was a lot. That was perfect in terms of nailing that aesthetic.
Yeah. So for me, I actually found myself wrapped up in this story. Even though it's clocking
Yeah.
at like at full 7 hours, right? Well, because it's 7 hour long episodes. There are a few moments that do run for a bit too long, especially dialogue, right? And admittedly, I didn't find it was like scary per se, right? But it's like the psychological and theological nature of the show is really what made it frightening to me.
Right.
Just seeing the conclusions that the characters will go to, the decisions they will make, and how they will justify that what they believe in is true, even though it's pretty much absurd and disturbing, right? Especially that final episode, though, which for me, I thought concluded on such a brilliantly cynical note, though.
Yeah.
And there's a final line. When it drops, so I thought, like, that to me was like the perfect way to end that series. Like, just that line alone. And it just kind of adds a lot of... it just adds just one more drop of cynicism to the whole show, right?
Right.
What else? So, well directed, as I said before. I thought that it was very well written, I should say, too, by Mike Flanagan. There's a couple of green screen shots here or there, like in a really, really integral moment involving our two leads. But I was like, alright, well, I guess if this is how they had to do it, okay, fine, okay. But I still, like, in the back of my mind, I know it's a green screen shot, whatever, right? But, and last thing I'll say, though, I would say, like, there's a twist. But I know, like, some die-hard horror fans will see that twist coming a mile away, though. But how I see it more is terms of just the logic and the more moral/spiritual reasoning behind it that makes it work, right? So, you might seem like, yeah, I know this is going to happen, but it's really like what it all led up to and what happens afterwards it works for me, right?
Right.
So, overall for me, I mean, while I wasn't in love and awe with this show, like I know a lot of people will love it because of how it touches on religion and, the hypocrisy of it for the most part, right? I still will say that this is probably the most thought-provoking thing I've seen from Mike Flanagan.
Right.
Ever, in my opinion. And this is coming from someone who has not seen all of his, films, right? I still haven't seen The Haunting of Blind Manor yet. I heard it was okay, but, it didn't compare. It couldn't compare. It wasn't as great as Hill House, right? This is why I didn't watch it, right? I could tell this is something that was near and dear to his heart, stuff that he really believed in, and I just love the fact that he was able to put it in a mini series, right? So he has enough time to tell the story and express his views and conflicts and all that kind of stuff, right? I know some people might think, oh, it's a anti-Christian or anti-Catholic show. I don't really see it like that.
No,
I more see it as, again, just how people, not so much how people twist, the Bible, but how we process it, how we as human beings process it morally and logically, right? That's all I'll say, right? And yeah, I mean, I thought it was intriguing, it was provocative, it was thoughtful, and it was just deeply frightening. So it's not like visceral as you might hope, but it just hit me on a cerebral level, and I really, really dug it from that, right? I wouldn't say that this is a show that you should watch for Halloween because it's set in Easter. Maybe this might be a show like if you're like real cynical about the Easter holiday or the meaning behind it. Maybe you might watch it and enjoy it, but I mean, if you were looking for something a little weird and spooky to watch in general, yeah, give it a look, man. So, for me, rating-wise, I'll give this a decent, a strong 4 out of 5, man. I could see this straight up in my best of. Not the top 10, or definitely not the top 5 at the moment.
Right.
That's just off a personal opinion. But I could see this making it as, one of, like, if not top 10 for sure, maybe as an honorable mention. But I will say in closing that, yeah, this is hands down one of the best shows you will see this year, just from a writing and concept perspective, right? But just don't go in expecting a lot of like scares and horror stuff. It's more about the stuff that's underneath, the stuff, all about the stuff that's being discussed. That's really at the heart of what makes this show scary, right? And yeah, for me, I would say right off the bat that will stick with you like long after this show ends. So yeah, final thoughts and rating on Midnight Mass.
Rating. 7 out of 10. The problem is that it's still the typical horror shit. Like, it didn't feel like it breaks none of the tropes or the ideas. Like, okay, why didn't do this? Why didn't do that? And again, they have like a quick explanation, but I was like, nah, they should avoid this bullshit, man. Whatever. I dug it for what it was, but I know, as I say, this is the reason why I'm not a horror fan. Because of stuff like this. But it's still very good. It addresses a lot of these core ideas. When they reveal what the creature is at the end, I'm like, all right, that's clearly something from, Stephen King. It's a blatant Stephen King reference, if you know what to look for. But that's about it. I dig it for what it is. Right. So that's about me.
Okay. And last but not least, let me finally talk about this Squid Game, boy.
Right.
All I hear is Squid Game this and Squid Game that. And
right.
That's
Right.
all over my Facebook wall, boy, and on Twitter. It's like, oh, Squid Game and this episode and sharing screenshots and oh my god, this moment freaked me out and oh my god, this happened and
right.
oh, I'm this character and oh, congrats and all that good shit. And,
right.
Which I had to put up with a whole friggin' week before I even sat down to watch the damn show, right?
Right.
But we finally checked it out. We finally saw what the big deal was, and why I say big deal is because this show like literally came out like about less than a month ago.
Right.
Like it's in October that people like finally took notice of it. That people like kind of losing their shit over it, right?
Right.
So what I will answer with my thoughts on it overall is if it really lived up to the hype, right?
Right.
So I will just do the synopsis on this, and I'll then you could share your thoughts, right?
Yeah, sure.
So what's about, right? It involves the character of Seong Gi-hun. If we got the names wrong, forgive me, right? It's a South Korean show, so yeah, right? He is a chauffeur. He's basically like just trying to make ends meet. He still lives with his mom. He's divorced, so ever so often he would check to see how his daughter, his young daughter, is going as well, right? His ex really doesn't want anything to do with him, so yeah, he's kind of shit out of luck, right? And it's just basically him. How the series opens quite brilliantly is him just going out of his way to just get money so he could just buy a gift for his daughter, right? To the point of just gambling his mom's money in this horse race, right? So through some circumstances, he runs into this mysterious businessman, right? Who basically actually challenges him to a game, right? But quite interesting is the game is somewhat of a kid's game, right? It's one of those games that you kind of learn about when you're in school, right? But he kind of learns that if he fails at the certain task, he collects a slap to the face, right? That makes for a dark but really funny moment, right? But overall, he wins, right? And then he's given this card, right? And he's told that he has to on this specific day he has to call the number. Sorry, and then he's given an address and a date to go there, right? So he does that now, and then he ends up being roped into this weird survival game called, it actually isn't given a name per se, right? But we don't know where it takes place, but it involves like just hundreds of people, right? And he's actually players, I should say, right? So he ironically is the 456th player, so he's 456, right? So they all have a number, right? And basically, we see these strange military like individuals, but they all dress in like this sort of pinkish color. They have these black masks, and ironically, it has like these symbols of a circle, triangle, and a square, right? So if you're thinking like like a game console, it's like that, right? So it's again
right.
For games, right? Yeah, and yeah, basically it's just these characters being told. You know what I mean? You have to go through these tasks, and the survivor of all of it will win X amount of cash, right? So for all those who are being killed, what they would have been compensated if they won, you will get that as well too. So right off the bat, they realize that no, this is like a life or death situation because in each and every game, there's like a huge body count for each of those characters die in. Not so much in the worst, gratuitous, graphic, gory ways though, but yeah, there's a lot of headshots. There's a lot of people just getting killed via gunfire, right? So it's to the point that if you survive this, you're lucky, right? But it's still a matter of if you will survive the next competition,
Right.
the next competition, right? So while all this is going on now, we have a cop who, through some circumstances, finds out about this thing now. So he's in the middle of it all, investigating all this, right? But really, at the heart of it all, it's about Gihan's character and him dealing with this as well too. Him knowing that if he goes back out to the real world, he has to deal with the fact that, you know, it sucks to be poor, right? But in this world here, even though a lot of people are dying left, right, and center, he has a chance, and that's all he has with this thing. He has a chance, even if it's at the cost of his life, like
Right.
in every way, in every sense of the term, right? So yeah, that's what Squid Game is about, man. So Ricardo, along with answering the question of if it lives up to the hype, what are you talking about this show? What are you talking about Squid
All
Game?
right. So it is the live action adaptation of an anime that never existed. That is basically what it is, right? That's what it felt like.
I know, right?
It felt like
really
it felt
does.
like
Yeah.
it felt like it like it's not the best version of something that could have been a great thing, but I felt because it didn't feel particularly thought out, especially the second half. The first half was okay, right? I was enjoying the first half, and then that second half hit, and I was like, wait, they didn't pay that off good at all, and then they didn't pay this off good at all, and almost all the big payoffs was predictable and fell flat. Because like you could have something that's predictable, but it doesn't fall flat. You can execute it particularly well. And then you could have something that it'll catch you completely off guard, Judd. But then, you know, they don't really play it out so well. This kind of does neither. And it have 2 or 3 reveals that are like that, in my opinion. And that is why it first half it okay. The latter half, the ending, the last half, especially from episode 6 onwards, I felt I didn't really care for. But I still dug it for what it was because everybody was so likable and actually was really rooting for these characters to go through. But when they revealed what all was said and done, I was really, really underwhelmed with the whole thing, to be honest. As I said, if they make like a well thought out manga that would have explained shit a little better. Like I get the feeling this should have been a manga like 15 years ago. I was like, wait, you remember Squid Game? That was a real dread anime where like Death Note or something like that. But that is what it is. And that's how I feel about it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. But I didn't love it either. And I really wanted to love it. And it started off okay for me. And because I thought it would have built to something stronger and it didn't do that. See, from episode 6 onward, kind of fell flat because of how predictable everything was. I was like, okay, I know something up with this character. Like from this time I saw a certain character, I knew something was wrong. Like, okay, that's like, and it's because my brain kind of trained for it because I'm watching all these goddamn enemies who need to do a big twist to catch you off guard. So my brain kind of trained for it. But I was still underwhelmed, to be honest. I just kind of underwhelmed with it overall. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And it is, let's admit it, it does not live up to the hype. But it's still good, right, for what it is. So that's how I feel about it.
All right. Well, I love that we could have conversations like this, right?
Yeah.
So I will see, and I don't want to contradict myself. I will see that if I watch this over again, maybe I could kind of like, you know, be a little bit more nitpicky because hey, I was just kind of watching things straightforward. I wasn't nitpicking while I was watching, right? So I know, like, if I watch it over again, I could be like, all right, well, nah, this could have played this out better, or maybe this scenario would have played out a lot better, or whatever, right? So I know that for sure, right? So in no way am I saying that this show is completely flawless, right?
Right.
But in terms of just being engaging, exciting, edgy and seat stuff, this show excels. It just exceeded my expectations.
No, but see, as I said,
I had a blast watching this.
As I said, okay, so here's the thing. The reason why I wasn't too surprised or blown away by it is because I wrote effectively. This was my first book. Was very similar to this. Very similar idea.
Oh really? Oh really?
Right, my first, so, and I in that book I ran through most of those ideas in a very similar way. Right.
Okay.
It's a book that
now I have a question to throw at you, right? So, it's funny that this happens, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as this show just started getting a lot of praise, right? You've noticed they started dropping, you know, the history behind it.
Right. Right.
The writer director,
yes.
Hwang Dong-hyuk, right?
Yeah.
And you know how he was trying to shop this.
To push us around a hot minute. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Now he finally got that chance there. So you know, people kind of watch this saying, "Oh my God, this is so inspirational," right?
But
so I'm wondering now if how you feel though with having a story already, having
Well,
a
no,
written
I mean, it's not.
novel, I assume,
No, it's not.
already done, and hearing the story.
No, it's nothing like that. It's not like, well, oh boy, I could have put this out. Not like that. It's just like, because it's a story I did. What happens is that story evolved into something else that was, in my opinion, a lot more interesting and cooler. That's all I'll say. Whatever. But the other story very similar to it. It was finished. I didn't publish it because I wanted to do something else with it. And this was before film. Like, it was years ago. And
Right.
and what I'll say is that this, because I ran through all these scenarios in this, I was watching this and none of it was surprising. So I wasn't particularly impressed. Like, as I said, so there are slight spoilers. But the second I saw number one, I knew something was up with this dude. Because that's
Okay.
very similar idea.
I know why, because
Yeah.
you're probably wondering why is this person of this age
How? Exactly.
in this.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's a red flag.
Like, right off the bat.
And
yeah.
when they do something with him in episode 6, and where the camera moves, because again all these camera movements are very deliberate, I'm like, all right, yeah, I know what they do there. That's it. The big disappointment for me was the cop and his brother. I hated that. Fell flat.
Yeah,
wasn't interested.
I do agree we
Right.
could have gotten more out of that too. But
Right.
and this is me being charitable to the show. I do think that we will get a season 2, and they have to clarify that shit, right? Because slight spoiler, it's not the end of everything, right? They do leave it open that
Personally,
we will have a second season
Yeah,
to
personally-
kind of get shit done.
Personally, I don't want to see a season 2 with this because I thought it ended kind of good. Because here's the thing with it. The one thing that was genuinely interesting is that the game's happening everywhere. It's not just Korea, right? I thought that was interesting. I didn't like that the character who I thought was the most interesting, I thought they would have fleshed out a lot more. They just killed off the character, right? In fact, 2 of them. They did two of these characters I thought they had a more interesting backstory than the main character, and to be honest. Dies off. Dead. And it's like a really lame death too. I like, okay, that kind of fall flat for me either. As I said, I didn't hate it. Because it's still well made for what it is. As a live action show, it is still very well made. But ultimately, I was just underwhelmed with the whole thing. I just was, I really didn't care with a lot of it, to be honest. But it was still pretty good for what it is. Right? But the main problem, the final payoff involving a certain character, that fell flat. Like, the reasons why this happening, really, that's what we're going to go with.
I would agree with that too.
Right.
It's not so much vague. It's just kind of you just kind of give them
Right.
you just come in the surface. You don't really go in and tell them why.
Well,
You just tell them
Like, okay, so
metaphor.
yeah,
And, this is how it is.
Yeah, in a
blah,
core
blah, blah.
sense,
That's it.
in a core sense, it's kind of interesting, especially when the clock struck 12. I get what he was going for, but it still fell flat
Yeah,
because
yeah.
again, is the live action problem. Like, I can imagine somebody making an anime about this, like the anime version of this 15 years ago. That would have been fucking amazing because of the editing and how it had to cut together and the framing. But because live action is just kind of fuck it up, it's not the same. I don't. As I said, it's okay. I don't love it, but it definitely doesn't live up to the hype, in my opinion, because of that second half. Like, the episode that I thought would have been this big gut punch, but it's such a good big gut punch, fall flat because of there's one thing, slight spoiler, one character who these two women didn't know each other, and then all of a sudden she making this big sacrifice. So what? Okay, I get what they're going for.
I know.
I get what they're going for, but the pacing of it was like just terrible now, and I couldn't feel it. But then,
because they actually like spend a lot of time with them though. Like, they actually like stop to start talking. I would admit.
but the thing is,
as a little sloppy to the
Exactly.
execution. Yeah.
but the thing is,
But I get what you're going for.
again,
though. I get what you're going
if we got a sense of them knowing each other for a hot minute and like, boy, they really fought together, and then we get to this situation, we gotta get why they set it up, and it's set up really reasonably well with a couple other characters, with another character, and the character, all I'll say is a character from Pakistan. I thought that was well done. That part was good because they set those characters up, but the other characters didn't really set up. They hint at another character, and I get the feeling that this should have been, instead of like a 11 episode thing, this could have been more like a good 25 to 40 anime short run. Like, that's how it paced. It really felt like it could have been an anime, right? But I don't know. That's how it feels to me. But it's only what?
I think it does deserve to be an anime.
That's how I
And
feel
not just
about it.
because
Yeah.
it's Asian, but because of the premise itself. Because
Exactly.
it really does have, I would say, like well, one isn't an anime per se, but it's Japanese.
Right.
It has like a mixture of battle royale and Death Note, right? Battle
But right.
royale in
But I
terms of
see. But I.
oh shit, the situation and
Right.
what's gonna happen next. But Death Note in terms of oh, you're biting your fingers because you're oh shit, this thing gonna happen.
Yeah.
Oh shit, be like it just really keeps
And
you on the edge
because
of your toes.
yeah, because characters have to use the brain, and you have all this like this game theory to it. Like I like that. Like they got into a lot of that thing. But again, good pace, that paces out and spell it out a little better. But however,
Yeah. Well, I'll just share my quick thoughts on this series, right? So yeah, I mean, it isn't perfect, right? I just want to get this out of the way. It's not perfect. I have a feeling if I watch it over again, I could nitpick more things.
Right.
I could nitpick more the decisions and the logic and all that
Right.
kind of stuff, right? But for me, how I saw it in my first view, and I imagine going forward, it's more of okay, this is the scenario. You either go with it or not, and it's just seeing how these characters relate to it, right? Now, of course, because it's set with this game, this game aspect of it, game theory, if you want to call it
right,
that.
right.
I thought that was like a perfect choice, though, because now it kind of like I'm not into reality shows, but I imagine like if you're really into reality shows, especially those game shows,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Especially those involving characters having to move from point A to point B, you'd be like, oh shit, well, don't do that, right? So I imagine a lot of people could be shouting at the screen to
Right,
when characters
whatever,
do things,
yeah.
right? Or cringing when they make bad decisions, right? But for me, it's just how the show just kept you engaged, right? And on edge, right? Now, to be fair, for me personally, this is not the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in my life. But why I say that, okay, like when it comes to stuff like, say, Battle Royale, for example, like I remember, like, seeing it for the first time late, like years afterwards, right? And it's only afterwards I look up, I was like, oh, okay, that's why it was so controversial,
Right.
and, in Japan and all kind of stuff. But, at the time people was making it out, like, oh my god, this is one of the most disturbing shows ever. I was like, no, not really, this is one of the most kick-ass concepts ever. But I can understand, to people who not into that style of violence, or watch this and be like, oh my god, you know what I mean? So, let's say that, you gotta be tough to watch this show, but for some people, they'll watch and they'll cringe and they'll be scared and, oh my god, somebody got killed, all that kind of
Right.
stuff, blood and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of watch it. I went, ooh, at some points, well, and then that was it. But I could understand for some people, there's parts that are disturbing. But what I love about the show here, it's not gratuitous violence. This is not Saw we go in with, even though there are a few moments like, case in point, a moment involving glass panes.
Right.
A bridge of glass.
Right,
panes,
that's a good
basically.
sequence, yeah.
That was very Saw-like. That
Yeah.
was very Saw-inspired.
Yeah.
But it's not like, okay, we're gonna revel in the blood. We're gonna revel in the gore. You're supposed to kind of, when somebody gets killed, and feel that
Right.
what's going on. Really feel the intensity of what's going on. But in no way, guys, this is like so shocking and controversial and disturbing. Nah, I've seen worse than this.
Right.
I've seen worse from the States. You know what I mean?
Right.
That this is a South Korean show, for God's sake. Yeah, go on.
No, as I said, it's a good adaptation of an anime that never existed. So it's still suffering from that live adaptation problem, but it's reasonably serviceable. But as I said, they could have been, I don't know, they could have just do more with it, as I say. And as I said, the actual story payoff was not particularly good, and that felt like they changed a lot of that. Like to me, I sure it had better answers to why what was being done, and they could have come up with something clever. But I'll fully admit, if I saw this like 10 years ago, I'd have been like, wait, this is the best thing ever. But 10 years passed, I'm a little too cynical and old now, and I see it, I'm one of those who's seen it all. My brain broken because it's next impossible to please me, right? So that's how I feel about it, in that sense, right?
Yeah. So just a couple of things before I get to read it, right?
Sure.
So I do love the fact that it's centered on kids' games. I love that.
Right.
That just
Right.
adds such a different level because it could have just been simple, Saw like traps, right? Like case in point that glass painting. But no, they incorporate stuff like the red light, green light stuff.
Right.
There was the marble stuff, which I admit some of it confused me because I only know just pitch and whatnot. But there's a few other games that they play with the marbles. I was like, I don't understand what the gist is. I just kind of waited to see, what the payoff is. But because you're thinking, all right, the game is what's gonna have you on edge. But I felt like with the marbles ones, not so much really. But it's just what kept you on edge was knowing, somebody who's gonna die. It's just who's gonna die and why and how.
Right.
Yeah.
No, as I say, again, if it was in anime format edited, the editing is how to cut stuff together and make it flow now. Because it's live action, It just feel kind of clunky, you know. But they had a couple okay moments.
I know, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's the medium. It's the medium
Exactly.
of the story,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
but I do imagine one day we might get a great anime out of this. Hell, we might get a manga out of this soon enough.
Right.
I think that there should be one. Like, if okay, so just reverse order, right? If Old Boy, the movie, the South Korea movie, could came from a manga, why not have Squid Game?
Well,
why not have a manga come out
to be a little more
of Squid
accurate,
Game? You know?
to be a little more accurate, it's technically manhwa, but I get the point.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Whatever.
Sorry.
Yeah, whatever. As I say, okay, so rating time. I do ultimately give it like a decent enough score. I give it a 7 out of 10, high 7 out of 10, closer to 8 than a 6. In my head, I was like, it just keep bothering me in the back of my head. It's like, wait, but they could have just do so much more with this. And I get the feeling that, look, the man was just working with what you have, especially knowing the behind the scenes behind it now. But yeah, I was ultimately let down with all of the big payoffs and reveals about answering the why. And I was like, nah, man, that's where they're going with this now, man. I ain't feeling this, as I say. And that final answer was, I kind of get what they was going for, but it fall flat. As I said, because we've seen so many of this class consciousness stuff like this, because we've seen other shows do it, and it's really, really, kind of an injustice of him just not getting a chance to tell that story back when these ideas would have been new to me. That's why I didn't care for it, because this come after Snowpiercer, and it come after, what was the name of that thing with the food coming down the levels? I forget the name of that movie.
Oh gosh, what was it? That Spanish film.
Right. So
which I reviewed actually,
Right.
but I can't remember what it was.
but
I'm
everybody,
sorry.
right? But everybody and their mother do that whole class consciousness, and then the end have some answer, and it's like, well, I to do it. The reason I did it, and it's because the villain kind of cynical and kind of lose faith with the world, and the good guy have to have more hope. And we've seen it so many times that it kind of is one of those too little, too late kind of situations now. So as I said, if we saw this 10 years ago when it should have came out, it would have had the bigger impact for people. That's all I'll say, right? Or if it was made into an anime back then, 15 years ago, whenever it is, back when stories was different, before we had peak TV, it's sad that he couldn't upgrade it, right? Or make it more interesting or modernize it in any interesting way. But I imagine for like South Koreans, this would still be a big deal because, credit card debt and financial debt is still a big deal in that country. So I can imagine it will stick with them in that way. But yeah, unfortunately, it fell flat for me. So 7 out of 10.
I could understand where you're coming from with this though. I could agree with you for the most part though. I do think you're a little harder than personally though, but I get why, right? Because I will confess also too, I forgot to mention, it's not the most original thing you'll ever see, right? Like I brought up stuff like Battle Royale, Hunger Games, you know what I mean? You'll see a little bit of Old Boy, you'll see a little bit of Parasite, especially that opening episode, right? So you'll see bits and pieces of familiar things, right? But in no way is that, like, I know for some people, they might look at that and be like, all right, well, this is why I'm not feeling it, because it feels all too familiar. But to me, it's just how it's all executed, how it works within the telling of the story. So it's not like, oh, I'm blatantly ripping off this show or that show. It's just the story that I'm telling. And I thought that the story itself was quite fascinating, quite engaging, exciting, thrilling, all that stuff though. There's a couple of issues with the payoffs though, I will admit though, but there were others that I thought paid off very, very well though, especially with the lead character. There's one particular moment involving him in the final episode that no lie brought the man tears out of me. But that's just really because of something that he lost, that's all we'll see, right? But but I do see this as, and even the way how it ends, like where it ends before we get to the closing credits, I do see the potential of a sequel. It doesn't need to have a sequel or say second season, but I do see the possibility of one. And I would love to see one. I would love to see these villains basically brought down. And that's what I want to see, right? I think if the creator plays his cards right, we could see that. He could actually show that, right? But for me, I think that this certainly lived up to the hype, though. I do see why people were praising it so much. I guess at the end of the day is what you get from it too. Like, I just got a great story that just had a lot of thrills, had me on edge. And I was just enjoying watching it and just being captivated by it though. But I know for some people, they just kind of watch it and just enjoy people being killed for no reason or whatnot.
Right.
I think that's just beyond what it's about, right? But yes, it does feel a little too familiar at times, though. But for me, that wasn't a big issue. It's just the nature of shows of this nature, right? But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I actually do see this showing up as one of the best stuff
Yeah,
for this year.
yeah.
Who knows? It might be a top 5 for me, for all I know, because
Right.
I didn't really expect to enjoy it so much. I thought it was just like, oh, it's just all right. I maybe it's just the sellers that it's from South Korea, but it's like same battle royale Hunger Games shit I saw before. But no, they do some other clever things as well too. Even right down to the games themselves and how they played off too was quite ingenious as well too. So for me, I'm going high with this man. I'm gonna give this a very 4.5 out of 5, man. I enjoyed this way more than expected.
Right.
Like shockingly so.
Right, yeah.